I love Pokemon Diamond and Pearl almost as much as I love Dad Village. These games were an enormous part of my childhood and remain among my favorite games today. And this is in no small part due to its incredible soundtrack, which has a distinctly jazzy flavor compared to other entries in the series. This soundtrack has some of my favorite tunes in all of video game music, and so today I'd like to take a listen to a few of them and talk about some of the features that distinguish particularly the melodies. So we're going to start with Twin Leaf Town, where the game begins, and while this doesn't have the full-fledged jazz-inspired music of some of the other areas, the way that this tune uses chromaticism is really neat and makes the melody so much more interesting than it otherwise would be. Let's take a listen. So notice how every time there's a structurally important note in the melody, for example, a note on a strong beat, like 1 or 3, it's either preceded or entirely displaced by a chromatic approach. So this is pretty normal. You got two really tense tones in there, which are very, very cool. Then the second phrase. Really important A flat right there. What this does is it obscures where exactly the arrival points for the melody are, and it also spices up the way that the harmony changes. It's full of anticipations and suspensions and escape tones and things like that, where the melody moves to a note that's not part of the chord happening before it resolves itself to the chord. So let's listen to the actual thing again and listen to how the melody interacts with the chords when you have those sort of spicier notes. Like I said at the beginning, this is a more reserved example. To look at the opposite end of the spectrum, I want to look at Route 228, so let's give that a listen. So you can hear even in that first phrase, there are still those chromatic approaches, but they're much more elaborate and decorative, and they bring out certain notes in the melody. You can hear this in the nighttime version of this theme as well, which uses an entirely different melody. So to slow that down a little bit for you. I mean, even in the first bar of that, that little, the F is the important note, but there's this like G flat. And it's like a little displaced rhythmically a bit, so there's a sort of like accent to it. It's very, very indulgent on the use of chromaticism to highlight certain melody notes. Another thing I want to talk about is something that I just mentioned, which is the difference between the day and night themes throughout the game. Most locations have 2 tracks assigned to them, one for the day and one for the night. And the in-game clock uses the clock that you actually set on your DS, so in most cases it's actually reflective of the real-world time for the player. Let's use the Eterna City theme as an example. Here's how it sounds in the day. And here's how it sounds at night. So this is a more reserved example. The big difference is that the key has changed. It's dropped from D major to C major. It's a subtle change, but the difference in key is actually a really big one for me. I find the nighttime version to be so much more comforting, and perhaps that's because of my association with playing this game at night and not feeling like my time was limited, but I do think that there's a genuinely more relaxed vibe to this in C major. The difference in key is more noticeable, however, when you have a track that uses a lot of chords with extensions like sevenths and ninths and sharp 11ths and all that good stuff, a track that generally uses harmonies that sparkle a little bit more. One such track is my favorite in the game, Route 216. So we haven't even gotten to the actual melody of the theme yet, but just in that intro there's D major 9 chords, D minor 9 chords, and C major 9 chords. Now listen to how this changes when it shifts key for the nighttime version. So the difference is much more noticeable when there are more pitches involved in general, and that's obviously going to be the case with chords that use a lot of extensions like that. Admittedly, it's also more noticeable when you hear them one after the other in a short time span, but that wouldn't be rare to actually happen in the game. And particularly with that last one, the Route 216, the nighttime one just feels so different. It's almost indescribable, but I think it's really beautiful, and I just love being able to hear the changes between the two. I genuinely can't tell you how much I love this game and its music. I think these day versus night themes are a huge reason that I really value my choice of key center when I write my own music. Each key really feels distinct to me, and I'm absolutely certain that this game had a direct influence on that. By the way, if you're not familiar with these games, there are remastered versions that have come out with the same soundtracks, but definitely a different sound in general. So go check out the soundtrack to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl if you want to hear those. Personally, I'm not a fan of all of the modernized versions of the soundtracks, but there are a few gems. There's so many other musical features in this that could be talked about, but I don't want to ramble on for too long, so if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing if you want to see more. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.